This is Blake Temez with the Blake Temez podcast, where I speak as a Catholic layman to Catholic laymen about missional living, wisdom cultivation, and legacy building in service of Christ and his bride, the Church. Thanks for being here. In the 1990s, Pope St. John Paul II published an apostolic exhortation called Pastores Dabo Vobis, Pastores Dabo Vobis, which means I shall give you shepherds, a quotation from the book of Jeremiah, referring to, not that the scripture referred to this, but the document referred to the preparation of men for ordination to the priesthood, to be shepherds in the Church of Christ. And in this document, the Pope introduced these 4 dimensions of formation that each needed to be addressed in order to have a holistic formation process for seminarians, for candidates for the priesthood. And the 4 dimensions are human formation, intellectual formation, spiritual formation, and pastoral formation. And recent conversations have been undertaken around how to integrate those 4 dimensions such that they're not treated in a siloed manner that attempts to relegate each realm to these different specialties that have no real communication with one another. And some of this work on integration has been explored by a philosopher by the name of Dr. Matthew Waltz, who was the director of intellectual formation at Holy Trinity Seminary. And in a recent interview with Dr. Peter Malinowski, he associates those 4 dimensions of formation with the causes derived from Aristotelian metaphysics. For example, the final cause, an efficient cause, etc. So I won't delve into the philosophy behind his thought on that front, but it demonstrates the acknowledgement that formation experiences, that formation programs need to be integrated and understand how each aspect of the human person is affected by every other aspect, right? If we consider human formation, which might be a new term for you listening, but that dimension of the human person that relates to emotions and affectivity and bodily needs, physical sensation, all those things that relate to the so-called animal nature of a human being. It's essential to keep that dimension in mind, to have it integrated with any considerations of a person's spiritual life, their prayer, their participation in the sacraments, and their intellectual life, how they perceive reality, how their mind interprets and can receive information and knowledge, and the pastoral formation that relates to, being a gift of self through service within a social context, within a community, and all of those aspects being related to one another and not being able to be neatly divided into a seminar on this topic, a seminar on that topic, and you just cover them in isolation, but always needing to have them connected, because a human person is one, that they have many dimensions. We have many dimensions as human beings, but every aspect of our life touches on every other aspect of our life. And this relates to the need to have a member of a formation team who can appreciate the general dimensions of formation, you could consider it like a generalist perspective, where there's an appreciation for all of the components, all of the dimensions of formation, and working to preserve and cultivate their integration. Whereas other members of a team could have specialties within that focus on this or that aspect to a greater degree. And so, in my mind, it's highly beneficial to have the generalist present and speaking into formation processes so that they can tend to that aspect of connecting things and seeing how things are being related to each other and how deeper connection can be cultivated without them having to be an expert in each and every area. They can zoom out a bit, whereas the specialist in spiritual direction or the specialist in philosophy in the Catholic tradition or in psychiatry or whatever it might be can do their thing, while the generalist provides the integrating function of making these different dimensions speak to each other and remain integrated. And so that's something that you can reflect on as a minister, a mentor, or a missionary, is in your role. Now this depends on your expertise and your training and all of that. Are you specializing in a dimension of ministry, or will your strength lie in being a generalist and appreciating multiple dimensions and seeing how they connect, while recognizing that other members of a formation team can speak into those dimensions more directly? And there's real value to both the specialist and the generalist. But perhaps what's needed even more so today is that generalist perspective that can foster that integration and see the human person as a whole. And so in future episodes and future conversations, I want to go more deeply into the different dimensions of formation, the human, the intellectual, the spiritual, and the pastoral, and explore how they apply to the life of a minister and also the life of the disciple who has a vocation and a mission that is not going to be identical with an ordained minister like a priest or a deacon, but who nonetheless has these capacities that need to be cultivated and shaped so that they can fulfill their role in an excellent manner as a layperson. So exploring that, exploring what each of the dimensions involves, and then continuing the conversation about how to keep them integrated and practical ways to keep those dimensions in conversation so that a holistic formation is provided that doesn't ignore essential components and unintentionally result in a disintegrated experience or a malformation because of the neglect of one aspect or the other. So those are my thoughts for today. Thank you as always for your time and attention, and God bless you in all your efforts. Peace. If you're a young Catholic man or a mentor, missionary, or minister who works with them, or even just a concerned figure in their life, a parent, uncle, whoever it might be on the lookout for the release of a short guide that I'm putting together called Brothers by Blood: How to Forge a New Path for Catholic Manhood. In it, I'll expand on some of the topics in this podcast and give you some points of reflection to see about how you can be a part of a movement that empowers men and brings them to their full potential for their sake and also for the benefit of the church and, by extension, the benefit of all society. So, again, thank you for being a part of this, and look out for more information about the release of my guide in episodes to come.